We got a call from Toril Haugen, the art curator at Utsikten, and she asked us if we were interested in doing some new work for their art center. And we immediately accepted because we really love Norway, and our interest for the Norwegian landscape was peaked in 2004 when we did Landscape version 1. And that work dealt with the representation of nature and human bodies movement. And we did that in the middle of the ocean on a desert island. And this time, we were supposed to travel the other way around, towards the mountains. Made it, we are in Norway. We are in Stavanger. It takes about 2 hours drive from Kristiansands airport to the location. And during that long drive, the weather changed constantly. I mean, it was mad. It's a constant variation. You've got clear sky, bright sunshine, fog, heavy rains.
È come se durante il giorno ci fosse l'inverno, l'estate, la primavera. Il tempo cambia in continuazione. Nell'arco di 2 chilometri è come se si avesse cambiato continente.
My God, it changed so much. We came up with the idea for General Silence during our first survey back in December 2007. And the place was still being built, and it was practically a shell. And I remember standing in what was then just a building site and trying to imagine the finished space. And it was pretty hard, also because all the windows were covered up with these big heavy plastic sheets, so I couldn't really see the fjord from inside the building. I could only try to assemble the view in a sort of a mental patchwork. And that was when I had the first idea for the installation, a cluster of particles, miniatures of the same view, forming a larger picture. And it was also then that I sort of felt it should have been a interactive audiovisual installation. I wanted to take the view outside the center, fragmented into many particles, and then when every visitor entered the room, each particle would be projected onto the big wall, but would also respond to every single person walking around the room. And at the same time, the music would respond to each person's movement, creating an audiovisual sea of change.
E in questo modo più gente sarebbe entrata nella stanza, più affollata sarebbe diventata l'amalgama dei frammenti del panorama. E tutto questo, insieme alla musica, avrebbe generato un'esperienza collettiva sempre più coinvolgente.
Basta. Siamo in un hotel completamente vuoto. Un po' shiny, insomma. So the main idea behind General Silence was then translated into a fairly simple technical principle. 2 cameras, one looking at the main floor area, reading people's movement in the space, and a second camera overlooking the fjord. So both cameras would send live feed pictures into the main computer, which would then take the fjord live picture and fragment it according to people's movement in the room. Now, this principle was quite simple on paper, but it turned out to be quite a technical challenge. Firstly, because all the pictures were live, so we had very little control on them.
E in secondo luogo, perché volevamo creare un'esperienza che fosse percepita come più organica e spontanea possibile. Non volevamo che il pubblico si relazionasse con una macchina, ma che si relazionasse con lo spazio.
A lot of the work went in fact into fine-tuning the whole technical gear, and we spent long nights just testing movements and reaction times, and also the music.
La sfida per me nel creare il concetto musicale era di far coincidere qualcosa che potesse tecnicamente funzionare nel programma di Marco, ma che fosse anche percepita come qualcosa di organico e di costantemente imprevedibile. E già così a Milano ho iniziato a sperimentare con quello che poi sarebbe diventato il concetto finale della musica, e l'ho chiamato musica verticale. Normalmente, nella musica normale, siamo abituati ad avere un inizio, uno svolgimento, una fine, ed una progressione in questo modo. Nello svolgimento verticale, invece, il risultato finale è dato dalla somma e dalla sottrazione di vari elementi che si susseguono tra di loro e che sono azionati dai movimenti delle persone all'interno della stanza. E quindi la musica in questo modo è gestita dal caso e dal computer. Si potrebbe quasi definire uno sviluppo della musica rigenerativa. E così, una volta arrivato ad Utzingen, ho potuto rimodellare e riplasmare gli elementi che avevo precedentemente creato e sentire come potevano comportarsi all'interno di questo particolare ambiente. Ho sfruttato gli altoparlanti per creare varie zone musicali. In questo modo potevo far apparire e scomparire degli elementi e seguire i movimenti delle persone.
And also the speakers were mounted in a slightly unconventional way for a surround system, and most of them were hitting in the ceiling.
Ogni volta che si entra, si ha la sensazione di entrare in una dimensione sonora parallela.
The wall was in the end a blank canvas where the visitors would assemble their collective version of the fjord, a collection of pictures.
E così le persone, oltre ad essere al centro della musica, sono allo stesso tempo il vero motore della manipolazione e della generazione sonora. È il pubblico il vero motore di Generous Silence.
So now I'm linked to the drums.
Yeah, that I trigger the drums,
You trigger the drum, but I move.
and then the drums start to follow you.
Exactly. So we.
Yeah,
And then there you go. And then I melt into
into
the track number one. So it's quite interesting that it's
Yeah,
shifting from one to another. And when we tested the installation for the first time, it was surprising and exciting at the same time, because even though we designed the whole thing, you can never be sure how things are going to work until you try them with all the elements in the real space.
per esempio questa traccia è perfetta se sei da solo.
Sì.
Però bisogna farla scendere un po' più gradualmente.
And every group of people would obviously generate a different assembly. So everyone will be associated with a small particle, and essentially representing the analogy of individual versus group. I mean, pixel versus bigger picture. For the inauguration, Toril asked a couple of dancers to come in and improvise in the space. And that was a bit of a surprise for us, because we never planned Generous Silence to work for a dance setting, but rather just with common people wandering around the place.
Il risultato è stato molto interessante perché le ballerine non solo danzavano su una musica che di fatto veniva generata da loro stesse, ma creavano un mosaico animato che, proiettato sul muro, costituiva un eco visivo costante ad ogni loro movimento.
It was extremely graceful. And also the wall seemed to be more human, and it was reacting to dance's movement less like a clockwork. And we quite liked that, so we decided to keep it in the end. From the outside, it might seem very geeky and all to do with technology, and although that's certainly a big part of it, in the end, our main aim is to create work that people can relate to and can respond to on a very immediate and sort of playful level. We want people to be entertained and to be amazed and to think more about themselves rather than how it's done. Welcome to Generous Silence.
E per noi è stato molto eccitante perché non sapevamo come Generous Silence avrebbe reagito di fronte a centinaia di persone che contemporaneamente volevano sperimentarlo.
And I remember one person even said to me, I know I just need to turn my head to see the real fjord, but somehow I just prefer your version.
Thank you and willkommen for at der Kom for Stengin. Thank you for coming.